faithfully delivering value, exploring the world's finest books. Hi, this is Sally's Book Talk. Hello, everyone, listeners of Sally's Book Talk. Well, talking about Pixar, I bet most of our listeners are familiar with it. Buzz Lightyear, Nemo, Wall-E, these familiar and classic animation characters all come from Pixar. So, from the animation industry's perspective, in terms of technology and box office, Pixar has created many milestones in animation history. For example, Toy Story, which we all know is the first feature-length animation in history to fully use 3D animation technology. It has epic-making significance for the entire animation film industry. Another example is The Incredibles 2, familiar to us all. Back then, its total box office hit 1.24 billion US dollars, ranking second globally for animated films. Besides, Pixar has won many Oscars for Best Animated Feature and Best Animated Short Film, among countless other honors. So, as a globally renowned animation studio, the scariest thing is the drying up of their creativity and innovative ideas. So, how exactly does Pixar maintain its innovative capabilities? How do they keep their top position in the animation world? I How is Pixar's innovative culture nurtured? To understand the principles behind this success, we can check out this book called Innovation Company, written by Ed Catmull, one of Pixar's founders, personally recommended by Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. Its subtitle is an explanation of Pixar. So, next Monday, we'll be interpreting this book for you all. In this book, Catmull reviews Pixar's past development, summarizing and reflecting on the company's experiences and creative lessons, especially focusing on core methods for sharing to help teams collaboratively create meaningful results and protect them from harm. After listening to this book, we hope it brings you Pixar's management philosophy, especially helping you understand how management can broaden creativity's horizons and free it from the mechanical constraints of corporate culture. Next Tuesday, we'll be interpreting the book The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. Well, many people who've finished it comment that it's a classic that's quite a headache. When we say classic, it's because the author is one of the most important masters in Russian literary history, Dostoevsky, and this nearly 800,000 word masterpiece is his final novel, showcasing his lifelong exploration and hailed as the pinnacle in literary history. So, why is it such a headache? Partly because it's a Russian novel, and Russian novels are notoriously tough reads, as many listeners know. Um, for example, Russian names usually have three parts, so they're super long. Plus, when the novel has lots of characters, it's hard to match names to faces. Another headache reason is Dostoevsky's personal style, which everyone's familiar with, because his novels often have pages-long monologues and dialogues, wanting readers to dive deep into characters' souls to grasp their thoughts and emotional shifts. So, to help you all quickly understand this masterpiece and its character relationships, we've reorganized the main content. Next Tuesday, we'll bring you the interpretation of this classic work. Well, every week, many listeners say we often recommend educational classics that impact millions of parents. So, next Wednesday is no exception. We're recommending this book called Parental Perspective. We know parental education and care are a key supplement to school education. But you know what? Besides those two forces, a child's growth needs a third force. That third force is a concept proposed by the author of Parental Perspective. It refers to forces that help kids gain growth experiences through assistance, but finding this third force isn't easy. It requires parents to have great wisdom and perspective, be skilled at teaching to individual needs, and be patient, attentive, and keen to capture life's lessons. Well, Parental Perspective is based on the author's personal journey and parenting experiences, mainly discussing challenges faced in raising two boys and how to solve them. And how did the author utilize the third force to help children grow into successful adults? Well, next Thursday, we'll recommend a book from Oxford University Press's Very Short Introductions series, which we've often mentioned on the show, called Machiavelli. Machiavelli was a figure from the Italian Renaissance, living between the 15th and 16th centuries. He's a renowned humanist scholar and a famous European historian and politician. One of Machiavelli's most significant contributions in history was breaking free from the constraints of European theology and ethics of his time. He was the first to advocate that the interests of the state are paramount. Therefore, Machiavelli himself is also known as one of the founders of modern political thought. However, in the Western world after the Renaissance, Machiavelli's reputation hasn't been great. He's been seen as a symbol of evil. Shakespeare mocked him, and Marx and Engels criticized him mercilessly. So, are these criticisms of him biased? Are they fair? To answer this question, an authority in modern intellectual history, a professor at the University of London, and one of the key founders of the Cambridge School, named Quentin Skinner, wrote this book called Machiavelli. In this book, Quentin Skinner sets aside all preconceptions about Machiavelli and recounts the changes in his thinking at different stages of his life. Now, in Western society, especially America, many believe that staying optimistic and envisioning a bright future where dreams come true will eventually make them reality. But Gabriel Oettingen, a psychology professor at New York University and Germany's University of Hamburg, has a different take. He spent over 20 years conducting extensive research and analysis, ultimately proving that optimism doesn't necessarily inspire action and can ignore reality. Blind optimism about the future not only fails to be a driving force, but can actually hinder the achievement of dreams. The author also found that the most effective way to achieve dreams is to imagine the future while also fully considering real-world obstacles. This truly motivates us to take action and go further on the path to our dreams. It's just like Jack Ma said, be confident about the future, but tread carefully in reality. So next Friday, we'll interpret this book called WOEP, The Science Behind the Secret to Achieving Your Dreams, with the subtitle Unlocking the Secret of Dreams and Success. This method has 4 key terms: wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. The author combined their English initials to name it Whoop Sway, which is the origin of the book's title. Nobel economics laureate James Heckman praised it as thought-provoking, well-grounded, and helpful for readers of any age to overcome real-life hardships. So for next Saturday's recommended book, we really hope you won't miss it. Why? Because its author is Gao Yang, one of the most renowned historical novelists in Chinese literature, often mentioned alongside Jin Yang. And we're recommending one of Gao Yang's most classic works, the complete biography of Empress Dowager Cixi. The entire book starts from Emperor Shanfeng's death, using this legendary woman who ruled China for nearly half a century as the main thread to recount the scarred history of the late Qing dynasty. In this book, Gao Yang writes with an immersive godlike perspective, making readers feel like witnesses to important historical events, watching everything unfold. After reading the complete biography, you'll gain a deeper and more fascinating understanding of modern Chinese history. So if you're a fan of Mr. Gao Yang or interested in Empress Dowager Cixi's life and late Qing historical figures, be sure to join us for this book next Saturday. All right, for the complete biography of Empress Dowager Cixi, we've now previewed next week's book recommendations. We also hope all our book-loving listeners will add our WeChat assistant to join Sally's Book Talk community and share with us the joy of listening and reading books. Thank you, everyone.